What's up guys, I'm pretty excited for this video, which is going to detail how to beat and farm the new boss this week, the legendary Delta Vault Simulation. It's currently the hardest boss in the game by a wide margin. Its difficulty is seemingly tailor-made to fit the new mini-Rex meta, which has completely changed the landscape for boss fighting since its debut. As you can see, the boss drops 3 ultra-rare armors, which are recolors of the permanently rare MacLeod armors that were available during the original Infernal Infiltration War. The drop rates on these aren't very high. As of this video, I've killed it 27 times and 11 other times on my ult, and I've gotten a total of 2 golds, 2 platinums, and 1 diamond. Based on data from myself and other people, it looks like they don't have the same drop rate, with the gold being the most common and the diamond being the rarest. If I were to guess, the drop rates might be 10%, 5%, and 2% respectively, or something along those lines. So what is the best way to go about beating it? Well, first off, I would use Blood Mage. The boss is so hard that you really won't be able to find a truly safe build. From my experience, Cyber Hunter doesn't win nearly enough to make it worth it. With Blood Mage, the strategy is to spam attempts until it's drained. With the correct setup, there's almost no excuse to lose once it's drained, as long as you started it off with a decent amount of health and energy. This sounds straightforward, but in practice, it's a bit more complicated, and there's a steep learning curve to get good at it compared to Cyber Hunter. So before I show you the build, let me go over some of the peculiarities of this boss. Here is a graphic showing the boss's 5 moves. It is a regular strike, which does physical damage and is blockable, and 4 skills, which are all deflectable. There are 2 physical damage skills, one relatively weak and the other extremely strong, and 2 energy skills, also one weaker and one way stronger. The weaker skills cost 75 energy and the stronger ones cost 100. So even though the boss only starts with 10k energy, there's room for a lot of skill uses. Fireflies can't remove the 2 strong skills, so isn't helpful. I believe all of the skills have a 2-turn cooldown. From this information, the obvious solution is to stack defense on Blood Mage, since it can only use its physical attacks after it's drained. However, there's a lot more than one way to go about doing this, and if we care about efficiency, there's 3 distinct factors that go into it. First, you have to make 100% certain that you will win after you drain. If there's any conceivable chance that you might lose when you take into account crits, then that's a problem. Second thing is how long it takes to get that winning battle. Anybody who's tried this boss knows that it is a pain to drain it. The last factor is how fast you kill. If you can kill fast, it might make up for a slightly lower win rate. To address factors number 1 and 3, you have to consider the balance between defense and bloodlust gain during the post-drain, since you won't be healing much. You might be tempted to get as much defense as possible, but that's not necessarily a good thing. If you get an excessive amount, that will hurt you because you just wasted points that could have been used to do more damage and gain more bloodlust. For example, you could have moved those points from Dex to Tech to increase bot damage and decrease deflection chance. On the other hand, if you get too little defense, the bloodlust won't be able to overcome the boss's damage. The optimal amount of defense is also going to depend on your use of shields, and that will make more sense when I show you the build. You also have to consider that there are multiple routes to achieve the same amount of defense. Now, once you figure something out that works well post-drain, you have to go back to the second factor, which is how long it takes to get that winning battle. This will make a huge difference. Sometimes, it takes longer to get the winning battle than it does to actually win. While no build will be able to drain 100% reliably, you just need to pick one that's as good as possible while maintaining the first and third factors. With that said, I'm not guaranteeing that the build I use is more reliable at draining. I've seen a lot of people using versions of God of Santa's full defense build with Blood Shield, something that looks like this. If done correctly, that build seems at least as reliable for the drain stage, especially when you use critical heal and lifeline. So, if you have been waiting for my video, I don't want to make any promises or guarantee a miracle. The build I use isn't necessarily a lot better, but I'm making a video on it because it's different. So if you can't win with the Blood Shield build, you'll most likely struggle at least as hard with what I'm going to show you. but I'll try my best to give you some good advice. Alright, so here's finally the build. Allow me to explain. This build differs from the full defense build in that I moved a big chunk of dex to tech and have max Blood Instinct instead of Blood Shield. The reason for this is manifold. You need exactly 96 plus 35 tech in order to reduce your deflection chance to 0, and that's what I have here. The difference between getting deflections and not getting them is night and day, especially in the drain stage. Second, the tech increases robot damage by a significant amount. And third is that it greatly increases your chance to deflect the boss when you're trying to drain it, and all of his skills are deflectable. However, the part where this build really outshines other builds is its efficiency during the post-drain, which I think you'll see for yourself later on. On primary, I use Crimson Offering without crit heal. I don't really like crit heal because it's not useful in the post-drain, and not overly helpful during the draining stage either if you use level 5 heal, but feel free to use it if you want. Lifeline can help for draining, so this is a matter of personal preference. I use Frozen Rift for Gun to get extra health during the draining stage. Drone Shot is a bad idea because Gun is an important attack. You can also use Improbability Gate on Ox, but I find that 2 Dread Cores are too hard to use because you already have Robot and Fireball available to do high damage if needed. Instead, I use Mana Burst on Ox, which is extremely useful to drain the last bit of energy it has. Keep in mind that the boss only needs 75 or 100 energy to use its skills. People who have tried the boss will tell you that it's not uncommon to lose right before it's drained. If you don't have Mana Burst, you can use Energy Shot on Gun and Improbability Gate on Ox. I use plus 8 dex, plus 45 defense, and plus 8 support. I like plus 8 support because it improves Blood Instinct by 3 points, but it's fine if you don't want to use it. In terms of speed, it'll depend on luck and how safe you play, but definitely shoot for less than 125 rounds. You can kill a bit faster if you get level 1 focus. You'll have a 1% deflection chance, but that's not a big deal. I have tried higher levels of focus, but I don't think it's safe or faster. Okay, that's it for the build. Let's take a look at the gameplay. The first move you should make is always Parasite, unless you have to heal. Parasite has to be your number 1 priority. You shouldn't be taking more than 30 rounds to drain. After Parasite is always Roots, unless you have to heal as well. If you delay Roots, you delay Parasite. The trick here is that the boss is heavily physical biased. Since this build doesn't have high base defense, I typically use Blood Instinct before the Roots go off in advance, or whenever I'm at full health. If you're at full health, there's no reason to attack because the only reason to attack right now is to gain Bloodlust. If you do need to gain Bloodlust, obviously prioritize Robot. But if you think you can attack twice in a row, use Fireball first, and if Blood Instinct is active. Blood Instinct really ups the damage on Fireball. It is also a good idea to keep in the back of your head which moves he's done or not. That can help you to decide whether to heal, attack to gain Bloodlust, or to use Blood Instinct. For example, if it's doing a bunch of weak physical attacks, and you're not in kill range for the energy attack, just attack to gain Bloodlust, because you need to anticipate that he will do an energy attack next, and that's what you need to save your heal for. When it gets below 1000 energy is when it starts getting hard because Parasite stops draining much, and you really don't want to be at low health and energy when you finish draining. It's a good idea to save Frozen Rift for around this time, just to keep your health up instead of risking sacrificing health for Blood Instinct. Once it's at the right moment, pull out the Mana Burst to guarantee the drain. Don't use it too early, or else it's just suicide because it skips your turn and makes it so that Parasite drains less. Once you actually manage to drain it, it should be a breeze, but you have to pay attention to the shield cooldowns. You absolutely must make sure to have either Blood Instinct or Roots on at all times. The trick is to alternate them. There's a pretty easy way to remember when to use the shields. Use Blood Instinct when Roots has 2 more turns left on cooldown. After you use Blood Instinct, count 1, 2, 3 attacks, and then put on the Roots again. Now, I know you might be thinking that the high defense build that most people have been using must be better for the post drain, but in my experience, having a higher robot damage and not getting deflection all the time actually more than makes up for having to shield more. Blood Instinct is also not as bad as it seems because it lasts a turn longer than Roots. Keep in mind that every time you put on a shield, you're sacrificing a turn that you could have attacked to gain Bloodlust. So the fact that it lasts an extra turn helps to make up for the fact that it costs health. There's another very important thing to pay attention to, and that is to make sure you never have everything on cooldown when Roots is on, because you can't strike and you will end up having to skip that turn. This happens in some cases if you use Augs before you use Gun, which will make them cooldown on the same turn. Normally, you would prioritize Augs because it's stronger than Gun, but you have to pay attention to when this happens and use the Gun first. The other thing here is whether or not to use Parasite. If you use Parasite, it often means you can't gun on Augs, which means you'll do less damage and gain less Bloodlust. However, 3 Parasites will get you enough energy for 1 Fireball, which should make up for it. And if you're playing safe, obviously saving up for the heal is worth it. Normally, that's the safer thing to do, but don't underestimate Fireball. With the energy it takes to use 1 heal, you could have used 3 Fireballs, which can easily add over 1,000 damage, and that translates to almost 300 Bloodlust compared to if you heal, you gain no Bloodlust that turn. If it is a really good battle, like this one, and you do decide to start spamming Fireball, always make sure to do it on the first turn of Blood Instinct to take full advantage of the 15% debuff. If you have Robot on your first turn of Blood Instinct, then I wouldn't use the Fireball, and I would use the Robot. Crimson Offering is extremely helpful in the drain state. If you use it to heal, it obviously pays for itself, but even if you're just using it to spam Fireballs, it'll pay for itself as well. Even if you were playing safe in the beginning, near the end, you can definitely afford to start using Fireball. The strategy is safe enough that you often go half the battle without having to heal. If the boss doesn't crit, the Bloodlust will heal for more than it can do damage. One time, I was at 0 energy left when I had 12k health and I had already used Peace Offering, and I was still able to win. In fact, in this battle, I didn't heal at all and only used Fireball, and that's why it turned out to be so fast. Alright guys, so this was my best attempt, 107 rounds. If you have more questions, put them in the comments and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.